Hello, this is Kickin' Cooking in Quarantine. My name is Mary Bear Shannon. I am a reference librarian at the Haverford Township Free Library. Again, this is Kickin' Cooking Quarantine for Monday, June 22nd. Glad to have you here today. Wanted to tell you a little bit about some programs that are coming up. Again, this is Kickin' Cooking in Quarantine. But the library has been doing virtual programs at the library since we closed in March. Kickin' Cooking is only one of many programs that we have done. And I just wanted to tell you about a couple programs, one actually brand new that's happening tomorrow. We are having our first film club, discussion club tomorrow. That's going to be on Zoom on Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock. The movie is, you actually watch it before you come to discuss it. It is Hector and the Search for Happiness. It is easily gotten on Hoopla. You can watch it on Hoopla, and then you just come to the discussion tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Again, the movie is Hector and the Search for Happiness. You can easily access it on Hoopla, and that discussion is through Zoom at 7 o'clock. You can just go to our Facebook events and you will find the Zoom link there. Another program that I will be doing, we do this monthly, is Herb Corner with Jen and Mary. And that is it's a pre-recorded program. It's at 3 o'clock on Wednesday, June 24th. We will be talking about herbs for our well-being, but also herbs for cooking. I do the cooking part, and my colleague Jennifer Kuhns does the well-being part. So tune in at 3 o'clock on Wednesday for Herb Corner with Jen and Mary. And then we are hoping to have our quarantine coffee house, our nighttime version, this Friday at 7:30. We are asking for people to bring their talent to the library. We're asking for a performance of no more than 5 minutes, and we will put it together as a video on Friday. So you can send it to us anytime, really, before Friday. Thursday would be preferable. You can send it to me at shannon@haverfordlibrary.org, and that is Quarantine Coffee House nighttime version. We're very sad that we are not able to do our Sounds of Summer series. Many people know that we have done in our parking lot of the library. Of course, at this point, we are not doing in-person programming. We're only doing virtual. So the Quarantine Coffee House is our way to share our talents here in the community. So if you have a talent, or if you know somebody who has a talent, it could be playing an instrument, singing a song, reciting poetry. You can send that our way, again, at shannon@haverfordlibrary.org. The other thing I wanted to talk up is our Facebook events, our Facebook groups. Many of you are members of our Kickin' Cooking in Quarantine Facebook group. We have just actually created a new Facebook group called Garden Therapy at HTFL. Many of you who love to cook also like to grow things in your garden, and we also know that that's a way that a lot of people are relieving stress, is getting out into their gardens and getting their hands into the dirt. I know it's definitely something that I have been doing, and I don't think my garden has looked as good as it does now, mostly because I've had time. And I also have a really good partner. My son is a gardener as well. So that is another Facebook group. Again, it's called Garden Therapy at HTFL. Just find it off of our main page, and you just ask to join, and I will let you in. It's a good place to show off your garden in all its splendor this summer. It's also a good place to share tips about making your garden as productive as you'd like it to be. So anyway, again, this is Kickin' Cooking in Quarantine. My name is Mary Bear Shannon. I am a reference librarian at the Haverford Township Free Library. I am broadcasting from my home. The great thing is that we do have curbside pickup at the library, but we are still doing our programs virtually. So I hope everybody had a great Father's Day weekend. I'd love to hear if there were things that you cooked this weekend for the dads in your life. or did you do takeout? It would be good to hear whether you decided to cook or whether you decided to venture out to some of the local restaurants. I know that many of them are doing outside seating. So let me know, what did you cook? I actually did a really nice salmon dish for my husband, the father of my two sons, and it really turned out really well. It actually had kind of a dill sauce on the top, and it really, when my kids and my husband said I could order that at a restaurant, I know that I have hit a home run. So I was really pleased, and it turned out it was easy, and it turned out really well. So I'd love to hear what you guys cooked this last weekend. I know that this has been, this is a heavy season for celebrations. I know myself, I had, my son had a birthday, he graduated from high school. I had an anniversary last weekend, plus Father's Day. So I'm kind of exhausted in terms of celebrating and cooking. I've done a lot of cooking in the last couple of weeks for the celebrations in my life. And I guess I'm curious to know what you all, do you have special foods that you celebrate with in the summertime? I know for me, my foods, the dishes that I make in the summer are really not very similar. There are things that I never make in the summer that I would make for a celebration in the wintertime. So, what do those things tend to be when you're celebrating during the summer? Are they more salads and lighter foods? Are they grilled foods? What do you do when you want to celebrate in the summertime? So I'd like to hear from you all. So I've been preparing for our herb corner with Jen and Mary this week. And I have been thinking a lot about herbs and how to cook with herbs. I have great herbs out on my deck, and I love being able to just snip what I need and use it for the recipes that I have. I have been specifically thinking about dill for this week's presentation for Herb Corner with Jen and Mary. And so I've been doing quite a bit of research about using dill in cooking. It is not something I have done a whole lot of. And so I've got quite a few recipes that I'm going to share on Wednesday. I'm not going to give everything away, but I do have one final recipe. I did a lot of cooking this last weekend and took some pictures of what I made. But I have one last dish, and I am going to work on that with you all today. But the recipe is easy ranch quick bread. It's not anything I have ever made, so if it completely fails, you could, I guess I'll know why, because I haven't tried it. But it looked like a great recipe. I was interested. I know that ranch is a very popular flavor. I actually did a little research that ranch is now the best-selling salad dressing in the United States. It was eclipsed by Italian in 1992. It is, it's definitely one of our favorites. And so I think anything with that ranch flavoring is very popular. A little bit of history about ranch. Ranch dressing was created by Gail and Steve Henson from a dude ranch just outside of Santa Barbara, California. Their ranch was called Hidden Valley Ranch, if you recognize that name. And the Hensons opened the ranch in 1954. And visitors came to enjoy horseback riding and taking in the scenery. What they really liked was their dressing, which they had created, so much so that they would send people home with little packets of the herbs and the dressing that people could make it at home. And it's one of those things that just kind of snowballed, and now it's one of the most popular dressings. Of course, we have everything this ranch flavored. We have ranch flavored Doritos and all different things. So I thought it would be interesting to make this recipe, which is a easy ranch quick bread. But I don't know about you, but if I can, I like to make my ranch from the packet as opposed to getting it from the bottle. I'd love to hear what your preferences are. But if I can, I try to get some buttermilk and the packet of dressing and then some mayonnaise to make homemade ranch. I think it's so much better than the bottle. But I was wondering if anybody had ever made their ranch without a seasoned packet. I actually looked up a recipe. The Pioneer Woman makes a ranch dressing, and it has all the fresh herbs in it, as opposed to the packet that's all dried. And the things that she calls for are the Italian flat leaf parsley, garlic, fresh chives, mayo. She calls for sour cream and just a little bit of buttermilk. I really like the tang of the buttermilk, and a little bit of white vinegar, and fresh dill. Of course, she puts hot sauce in everything. I can't really imagine having hot sauce in my ranch, but so I'd love to hear if anybody has ever made their own ranch. I've never attempted it, but I do try to make it from the packet as opposed to buying it in the bottle. I think it's much better. So anyway, so here we are. We're gonna the reason that this is the kind of the last thing I'm making with dill, preparing for our herb corner on Wednesday, is that this actually calls for fresh dill and fresh chives. So I'm actually going to show you all the steps on making this quick bread. I love quick breads because I'm not as familiar with using yeast. I can use yeast, but I prefer quick breads are so much easier, and they're quicker, even though they do. A loaf usually cooks for about an hour. There's no rising. The leavening is baking powder and baking soda, and you'll see that's in this recipe. So anyway, let's head to my kitchen and we will make the easy quick ranch bread. Okay, so here we are, and I'm going to tilt down. Of course, you're not going to be able to see my face anymore, but here is the beginning of this recipe. We're going to work on the dry ingredients first. This is 3 cups of all-purpose flour, which I've already measured into my bowl, a fairly large bowl. And then it's going to call for a bunch of different things. First of all, 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Put that in. Oops. And it's calling for salt, but later on it also called for butter, unsalted butter, and I only have salted butter. So I'm actually going to omit the salt, but it is a 1 1/4 teaspoon of fine salt. So I am actually going to leave that out because I have salted butter. Okay. And then this is onion powder, and they seem to make a big deal about it, that there's no salt in this. So this is, that is a teaspoon of onion powder, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of garlic powder, not salted garlic powder, but just regular garlic powder. Okay. And then a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. So there are 2 leavening agents. There's the baking powder, and then there is the baking soda. And then lastly, for the dry ingredients, it's calling for a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. So I'm going to put that in. So these are all my dry ingredients. It says just to whisk this together and make sure it is all integrated. You want to make sure that your leavening agents, your baking powder and baking soda, are incorporated so that they can evenly rise this this bread in the oven. So you want to make sure that is thoroughly put in there. Okay, so that is pretty much all put together. I'm just going to put this to the side, and we're going to work on the wet ingredients. So in another bowl, just so you know, if you recognize this, maybe people of a certain age, this is a Vitacraft bowl. It is over 60 years old. My father, when he was in college in the late 50s, sold Vitacraft. They're no longer around, but this was a kind of a sturdy aluminum mixing bowl set, and he sold it one summer when he was in college, and so this is a bowl left over from that summer job that my mother has had ever since, and then of course she gave it to me. So Vitacraft is one of those things that was just a snapshot from the mid 20th century, but I still have this bowl. Again, this is a Vitacraft bowl. So this asks for 2 large eggs, but I only had small eggs, so I did a conversion, and it said for 3 small eggs, two large eggs equals 3 small eggs. So I used 3 small eggs. It's also asking for a cup of buttermilk. So I'm going to put that in. And that's nice and creamy. And then it's calling for 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter. But again, as I said, I didn't have unsalted, so I used salted butter, but I omitted the salt from the dry ingredients. So I just melted that in the microwave. And then, and now we need the fresh herbs. So I'm just going to put this to the side for a second, and I'm going to pull out my herbs here, and I'm going to tilt this down. I've got chives here, and I have dill. It's asking for a 1/4 cup each. So, and the dill is just needs to be coarsely chopped. So I'm just going to make sure there are just a couple of stems in here. Make sure that is cut up enough. I don't want to make this too finely. And that is going to go into my wet ingredients. Okay. And then it's asking for chives. And these are actually chives. The dill, I do have dill growing in my yard, but I don't have enough for this. It's still kind of in the smallish stage, so I did not have enough for a 1/4 cup. But I do have lots of chives. I have it in my yard, and I have it in containers. The great thing about chives is that they come back every year. They are a perennial, and they have this really pretty purple bloom in the spring, and mine bloomed some this year. The blooming time is over, but it's a really pretty purple flower, and so but I did pull this out of my garden. Now this is asking for a finely chopped, and I'm just gonna start here at the end. It's asking for a 1/4 cup of chives, and I think when I think of ranch, I think of chives. So keep at it here. I think that's probably close to a 1/4 cup. I'm gonna really finely chop this because that's what it calls for. A little bit more than my dill, which was more of a coarse chop that they called for. And this is going to give it some nice green flecks in the dough. So hopefully people will get the sense that this is, a savory bread, a ranch, like ranch, because when you have ranch dressing, it has the little green specks. Okay, so we're going to put that in to our wet ingredients. Okay, we're going to put this to the side. So we're back to our bowl, our Vitacraft bowl, and it says that we should be whisking the eggs, the butter, the dill, and the chives in a medium bowl until combined. So we are going to do that. And I've got my whisk. I'm whisking to make sure those eggs get broken up and that everything gets combined. Okay. Now here's the strange ingredient. I was very surprised to see this. This is the last thing that we put into the wet ingredients, and that is cottage cheese. This is low-fat, large curd cottage cheese, and I never would have guessed that would go in this. In fact, I had everything yesterday and realized this morning I didn't have cottage cheese because it was the last ingredient, and it totally took me by surprise. So I had to go back out again this morning to get cottage cheese. So apparently, they prefer it to be large curd. And again, I have it in my great little Wonder Cup that I have showed on this program a number of times. I love this. Tool because you can measure out things that are kind of hard to get out of, things like peanut butter and shortening, and then you just push it in to get everything out without really losing anything in your measuring cup. So that's the cottage cheese that's gonna be part of the wet ingredients. Okay. Now this wet mixture, is gonna go into our dry mixture. So here it is, and we are gonna pour this in. Sorry, I don't have as good a camera skills as some of the Food Network, but we're pouring the wet ingredients in, and then we are going to stir this up. So we are going to fold this in and make sure it's combined. Now again, I try not to overbeat my quick breads. You don't want to kind of overstimulate the gluten in this, because sometimes that will I find with quick breads, muffins, they tend to kind of shoot up the top, and that's really a sign that you've kind of overbeat it. So you just careful you don't overmix. Just make sure everything's combined and wet through. So this is going to be a bit of a, you're not going to pour this in, but you're definitely going to spread this in. Okay, so that's pretty much all mixed up now. And we are going to put this into a loaf pan. So I am going to, this loaf pan I've greased with some spray grease so that this will come out. So you just want to put this in. And it says just to spread this around so it is evenly in the pan and get all that goodness out. And then with your spatula, you want to spread this all to the sides. Okay. You want to have it says to have a smooth top. Okay. So that is pretty much done. As you see, it's all ready in the pan, and it is ready to go into a 350-degree oven for about 15 minutes. It says bake until golden brown, and a tester is inserted in the center of the bread, and it comes out clean. So afterwards, you're going to place the pan on a wire rack, and you're going to let it cool for 15 minutes. And then you're going to flip the bread out of the pan. You may have to loosen the sides, but we have greased this, so we should be able to get that out fairly. And then you just let it cool for another 15 minutes. So again, this is going to go in. Now my oven tends to be fast, so I probably will check this after about 40 minutes, just because mine tends to cook really fast, and I have burned more than one thing in this oven and I think also because it's gas. So that's going to go in. And that's it for our easy, quick ranch bread. Since I've been demonstrating, I see that Liz is here. Welcome. And again, I'm getting ready for our herb corner that's coming up on Wednesday. I have done quite a bit of cooking with dill. So tune in on Wednesday for our herb corner with Jen and Mary. My part is going to be about dill. My colleague Jennifer Kuhns is going to talk about how she uses herbs for her well-being, and she's going to show how you infuse certain herbs with hot water, and she's going to help us with all of the terms that people use when they use herbs for their well-being. So tune in again on Wednesday, the June 24th at 3 o'clock to find out more. But the bread I made today is one of the few things that I made that use dill. So you'll learn more about that on Wednesday. So again, this is Kickin' Cooking in Quarantine. My name is Mary Bear Shannon. Again, join our Facebook group. It is a great way to share with everybody what you're making and get hints about things that you'd like to make or ideas about substituting things. And that is our Facebook group. It's called Kickin' Cooking in Quarantine. So again, thank you for joining me today and have a great day.